Hi, it's Rick from 4Community, creating community spaces so you can connect with others and also with God. I have a little illustration to help launch the idea that this video is covering today. Currently, right now, I am enjoying how my family celebrates my birthday. However, that hasn't always been the case. I mean, it wasn't horrible, it just could have been much better. So before, when we celebrated my birthday, I mean, it's no big deal. My birthday isn't even soon. This is the illustration I thought about. My wife and I used to go out. She'd take me out on some kind of dinner date, and we would get somebody to watch the kids, and we'd go out, and I wouldn't see the kids all birthday, and it would just be my wife and I. And I mean, it was fine, but I really wanted to spend my birthday with my whole family, with my wife and my kids, because I thought that would be much better. So I went on with this for a couple of years with just my wife and I going out again, which is fine. I kind of felt guilty about saying, you know, I'd rather not only go out with you. I want to be with the kids as well. I felt guilty about saying that, right? So I never asserted myself. I never said to her, I think there's a better way to do this, until one day it just got in my head. I said, wait a minute. The only reason why we're doing my birthday this way is because I've never said anything about it. So a couple of years ago, we were out on my birthday dinner, and I said to her, you know what? This is actually not what I want to do for my birthday. And she was a little surprised by that. I said, I would rather be all together with you and the kids, and I'd rather just stay at home playing board games and doing stuff at home. I don't want to go out and eat dinner. And like this relief came over her a little bit. She's like, oh, I thought this is what you wanted to do. I was doing what I thought you wanted to do. And all these years as we're celebrating my birthday, the way that I didn't like to, it's only because I didn't assert myself and I didn't say, hey, hello, let me just be honest about what my experience is here. What about you? Do you do something that you really don't want to do simply because of the good intentions of the people around you, and you've never brought yourself to telling them that you really don't like doing it that way or going to that event? If you're watching with someone, please pause the video and share a story about you going along with a plan that you didn't like for the sake of the people around you. This video is based on my interpretation of 1Peter chapter 3, verses 13 to 16. In this text, I think we see a glimpse of how healthy assertiveness is. I mean, being honest with yourself to acknowledge your personal needs, and then being honest with others about them too. 1Peter chapter 3, verses 13 to 16. Now, who will want to harm you if you're eager to do good? But even if you suffer for doing what is right, God will reward you. So don't worry or be afraid of their threats. Instead, you must worship Christ as Lord of your life. And if someone asks about your hope as a believer, always be ready to explain it. But do this in a gentle and respectful way. Keep your conscience clear.
Oops. Oh, hey, let me get that for you.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, hey, what's this about on your poster?
Oh, for community?
Yeah, I'm kind of curious.
It's an online church where we connect with others and God. It is super cool. You should really check it out. There's a weekly video with a follow-up Zoom meeting on Sunday. And the kids in our group watch Connect HQ. Then in the Zoom meeting, they talk about what they learned.
Oh, cool. I'll check it out.
Here's the point I'm going to make in this video. It's healthy to be assertive. I'm going to share with you 2 points around why assertiveness is really healthy and why some people may have a hard time with it and what to do about it. First, let's start with some kind of simple definition of assertiveness. Assertiveness is honesty. The text says, now who will want to harm you if you are eager to do good? But even if you suffer for doing what is right, God will reward you for it. So don't worry or be afraid of their threats. In my opening and very simple illustration, I shared a story about how I asserted myself about how we planned to celebrate my birthday. I mean, no big deal. Nothing's really on the line here. This isn't a big crisis in our family. But for me, it was a bit of an aha moment. I realized that the only reason I was enduring something that I didn't want to is because I wasn't being honest. I wasn't being honest with myself about what I was feeling and what I thought I needed, and I wasn't being honest with my wife about it either. Once I got honest, we made a change, and now I love how we celebrate my birthday together. Again, a very simple illustration all about asserting ourselves and why we should consider it as valuable. In the text, I'm hearing a call to being assertive about who we are as believers. The original readers were oppressed, persecuted, and they had a reason to be timid about sharing their faith, and they expected to be hurt. So it makes sense that it begins with a warning around not retaliating. When we feel powerless, sometimes retaliating is what makes us feel powerful. So the note here is that God is the one who makes us powerful by his rewards, not by our own activity. And this might play into why some people feel that assertiveness and confrontation may be wrong, because it feels a little bit retaliatory. But in fact, I don't think it is. There's a concern here that the original readers would stop living for Jesus, particularly in ways that would draw attention to them. So what the author does here is he builds in an encouragement to stay the course as a believer without fear. Underneath this call is the call to be assertive. I've noticed with certain personality types that some people are prone to be avoidant about their own needs and passions for the sake of harmony and serving others ahead of themselves. Because they don't acknowledge their own needs and passions, they live with incongruencies that cause them stress that can show up as chest pains, rumination about the past, catastrophizing about the future. It can also contribute to disconnectedness to their significant relationships and disengagement at work. When we're not honest about our own personal needs, we experience that in ways that actually hurt us, like feeling stress, like feeling the loss of closeness to people around us, the loss of loving our work and wanting to like our coworkers and be around them, the feeling of not caring about the people around us and just wanting to turn off all the noise and actually feeling more disconnected from Jesus particularly. Assertiveness and confrontation are words that some people just don't like. Some people. Some people, like me, are okay with it. I don't see these words as bad, and I don't see these words as anything causing conflict. Other people, however, when they hear those words, they don't actually hear those words, I think. I think their minds quickly jump from the words to the methods they've seen others use that have been damaging and that have caused people to become hurt. The methods are souring the words. Assertiveness is simply honest communication about who you are and what you discern. You communicate your honesty to yourself and then to others. And confrontation is similar. It's an act of honesty. In this text, what we're hearing is the challenge of believers who may be choosing to be quiet about their faith or live in a way that hides their love for Jesus, like not praying maybe, not connecting with other believers, doing things that others feel are right, but they're actually unethical, immoral, or just plain unwise. For Jesus followers, Jesus is the deepest part of our being. Jesus is so meaningful that he informs our identity and our lifestyle, and he is our hope for our future and for our eternity. Jesus is the reason why we sacrifice and why we choose not to engage with some of the pleasures that people around us do when we know those things will hurt our connection with God. Jesus is at the core of who we are. He's our passion. He's our joy. He's our greatest friend. He's our secure attachment. So here's what Peter is saying, at least in part. If we choose to live a life that avoids assertiveness and confrontation, what we're doing is we're suppressing the most valuable and meaningful part of us. And if we do that, we are somehow going to experience that as pain. Our stress levels will rise, we'll disconnect from people, we'll stop caring about Jesus, we'll lose our passion, and we'll lose our feeling of connectedness with Jesus himself. The incongruencies that occur in a life of a Jesus follower, choosing not to live a life of honesty, becomes a life of pain and stress. Here's the thing about assertiveness and confrontation. The root of assertiveness and confrontation is honesty. And to pull in another verse, let's remember what Jesus says about honesty. Jesus says it's the truth that will set us free. We need to embrace the truth about who Jesus is and what he means to us and live a life of truth. And we can't do that without assertiveness and confrontation. So let me clear up something about assertiveness. Again, here's my second point. Assertiveness is not method. The text says, instead, you must worship Christ as Lord of your life. And if someone asks you about your hope as a believer, always be ready to explain it. But do this in a gentle and respectful way. Keep your conscience clear. There are gentle and respectful ways of being assertive and having a moment of confrontation. Regarding my first illustration around me changing how we made our plans for my birthday, I gotta say again that it was not a big crisis moment for us. There was no escalation. There was no crying, no yelling, no debating. My wife was not weeping and mourning at the table as I was explaining my point of view. It was just a moment of honesty, first to myself, and then to my wife, and then to God. Assertiveness and confrontation are not methods. The methods may cause you stress, and if that's the case, change your method. If you have a negative opinion about asserting yourself or confronting someone, I wonder if you're actually reacting against the methods that you either use or you've seen other people use. The text shows us what assertiveness looks like as a believer. The text tells us it looks like worshiping Jesus with our whole life. That's assertiveness, because we're being honest about our core being, and then that honesty is living it out in our lives so there's no incongruencies. That's assertiveness. It looks like an explanation of why you follow Jesus, not why it's a bad idea for other people not to, or why it's wrong to choose something else. That's not assertiveness. It's purely a personal statement about why you have chosen Jesus and how it makes sense to you. And it's keeping a clear conscience also. You're asserting yourself. You're being honest about your needs and acknowledging them, and you're also still loving God and others in the process. Now, I kind of feel a little badly about how some people feel about assertiveness. Some personality types will genuinely carry an avoidance about acknowledging their own personal needs and passions and wants. They'll carry with them this value around self-sacrifice, or they'll live their lives according to the tyranny of the urgent, and they'll shut down on the inside and carry so much stress that they can't quite put their finger on where that stress is coming from, but they're actually suppressing the truth that's inside of them. Jesus followers, it may be time to do some empathetic confrontation here. On the one hand, Jesus is the most meaningful part of your life, and you want to worship him with your whole life. On the other hand, maybe you don't tell anyone about why you've chosen to believe in him. Maybe you're living such a quiet life that no one has any idea what Jesus means to you. Or maybe you're living immorally, unethically, and untheologically sound. How do you bring those two ideas together in a way that makes sense to you? How do you live a life that's devoted to your greatest love and passion, and also live a life without acknowledging that part of you among other people at the same time? How do you do that? Now, I'm not making any accusations here. Actually, I'm really feeling for you here. Some people are so avoidant of their own personal needs and passions and their own heart that they lack the amount of assertiveness they need to simply acknowledge that the need exists within them. They live a life of suppression, and it manifests itself as stress or some kind of pain. If that's you, you can make a change by attempting to acknowledge what is truly important to you and how that need of doing something about it isn't being met. Acknowledge that need. Acknowledge to yourself how much Jesus means to you. Acknowledge to yourself if your need of a close connection with Jesus is being met in your lifestyle, and if it's not, figure out what you're going to do to resolve it. Here's the takeaway, and I'm going to make it personal to me, and hopefully you can make it personal to you. I need to be honest about Jesus being the most meaningful part of my life to myself and then to others. This is really about honesty before myself, others, and God. What's your takeaway? Being assertive about your choice to follow Jesus, it starts with honesty. It's being honest with yourself about your greatest need and what's most deeply meaningful to you. And it's being honest with yourself about your incongruencies. Assertiveness starts with self-honesty. And then it transitions into gentle communication where you speak for you and no one else, explaining why Jesus is your choice and why you want to live the way you live. That's it from me to you. For now, would you please like? Would you please share? Would you please subscribe? Also, would you please ask for the link? We meet on Zoom at 10:30 on Sundays, at 6 p.m. on Sundays, and also on the second and fourth Sundays of every month, we meet at Beaton Community Center. So for me, that's this coming Sunday. And if you're local to us, please join us. If you'd like to contribute, you can find the link in the show notes. For community, creating community spaces so you can connect with others and also with God. See you next time.